Okay, hello and welcome to the channel. I'd just like to start by saying this is not going to be a road test of this bike. If you're after a road test, please go onto the channel. There is a road test review already uploaded. So, the long-term ownership review of my Benelli TRK 502X. First of all, I'd also just like to apologise if the audio isn't very good today. It's a very windy day and there may be some wind noise that gets through to the mic, but I hope it won't spoil your enjoyment too much. Yeah, so the Benelli TRK 502X. Anybody who watches my channel will guess what I'm about to say in this review about this bike. I absolutely love this bike. So the acid question with any bike: do you regret buying it? And knowing what you know now, would you buy this bike again? Well, the answer is I don't regret buying it, and yes, I would definitely buy one of these bikes again. I'm going to run through all the little things that you consider when you're out shopping for a bike. We will go through durability, the standard of the components and the quality of the bike build. We will look at how affordable the bike is and how economical. We'll look at how reliable it is, and basically just what's the overall ownership experience. So let's start off with reliability. Since I've had this bike, I've done quite a few miles. I think I've done around about just over 3,000 miles, 3,500 miles, something like that. I would normally do a lot more on a bike, but you know, we've all been stuck with this lockdown due to the pandemic, so it's curtailed when I've been able to ride the bike. And during that time I have had zero issues with this bike. It has been absolutely amazing. It has been totally reliable. Every time that I've wheeled it out the garage, it has started up. I've never had any hiccups with the bike. I've rode it all year round. Absolutely 100% reliable up to yet. Okay, let's talk about components and build quality. As you can see from this footage here, this is my bike, and there is absolutely zero corrosion on this bike. I see on a lot of websites people putting pictures up of Benelli TRKs that look as though they have been left out on a pier for 2 weeks in sea salt spray and they're about to fall to bits. I can only say that is down to the owner and not the bike. I don't worship my bikes, you know, I don't clean them with a toothbrush or anything like that after every time I ride them. And anyone who looks at the channel and knows the channel will see that from my videos I ride my bikes all year round. I will take them out on winter roads in all conditions, whether there's salt on the road or not. And the only things that I always do religiously with my bike is when I get back from a winter ride, especially if it's been on wet roads, I will always hose the bike down with fresh clean water. It's not high pressure hose, it's just a standard hose pipe, and I just rinse all the salt off so that it's not going to be eating into the metal while it's sitting in the garage. And then once a week, if I've been riding the bike throughout the week, I will give it a soap bath, good quality soap, and a very mild jet washing down. I'm not a big fan of jet washes on bikes, but in winter time, as long as you stand far enough back so that the pressure isn't too high on the motorcycle components, you're pretty safe, and it is the best way to make sure you get all that salt and crap out of all the nooks and crannies around the bike. And at that point I will usually dry the bike as well. I used to watch these reviews of people who had these special motorbike dryers and think, well, that's really over the top. But no, I am a big convert. Since I've had one, it really does stop the bike rusting, because it gets into all the nooks and crannies and blasts all the water out, and it really does aid in maintaining your bike in good condition. And then 3 times a year, what I will do, I will give the bike a deep clean. where I do get the little brushes out and you know, I get it so that it's showroom condition, and then I will coat it with ACF 50 as well, and that is normally at the beginning of winter, halfway through winter, and at the end of winter I do that. And again, using the ACF 50 should I say, it is absolutely a fantastic product. I never used it in the past. I saw reviews on it, thought I'd give it a go, and I can honestly say it does a great job of protecting your bike, as you can see from the standard of my bike now. It's really done the trick. The actual components themselves, as I said, the bike's been very reliable. I've had nothing let me down. I haven't had to replace anything on the bike. The build quality is absolutely amazing. It is as good as any of my Japanese or European bikes that I currently have or have owned in the past. There's a video up on the channel now where I changed the air filter, and you know, it was a complicated thing to do because I had to do a lot of paneling. I had to take the tank cover off, remove the petrol tank, but when I came to put it all back together, all the panels fitted perfectly. I didn't have any issues getting any of the holes to line up or putting any of the fasteners back in, and that is a testament to Benelli's build quality, because I've had some Japanese bikes that have been a lot worse. When I've had to take panels off and come to put them back on, they have been a nightmare to fit back on and get them to line up. They just did not want to go on. Whereas with the Benelli, the build quality is absolutely excellent. So you know, I can't fault it. People, you know, that they question the quality of Chinese bikes, and you know, I have to say that in the past, yes, I can understand why there have been some really, let's say, not so good bikes built in China. However, these modern bikes, the Chinese really have caught up, and I think they have closed the gap now with the European and the Japanese bikes. So build quality and components are excellent. Okay, so let's talk about economy. On a full tank, riding loaded up, and my panniers fully loaded, and a bag on the back if I'm going touring, I can do a full day's riding with mixed roads. So you know, B roads like this, A roads, fast A roads, dual carriageways, and some motorway riding. A full day's riding with a mixture of roads and speeds, and I will get around about 230 miles to the tank. But that is absolutely pushing it. That's riding for some time with the light flashing, the low fuel indicator flashing, and I don't like to do that on my bikes. I always tend to go no lower than quarter of a tank, and then I'll fill up. I most probably could have got another 20 miles out of it as well. So you know, I would say a maximum range of about 250 miles fully loaded up on mixed roads. Fully loaded up all day motorway riding, you're looking anywhere in between 160 up to about 180, 190 miles, I would say. Obviously a lot depends on the size of the rider and how much weight you're actually carrying, but for me, I'm about 14 stone. I'm between 13 and 14 stone, and when I'm fully loaded up with all my bags and panniers, that's what I'm getting on the motorway, around 160 to 180 miles range out of a full fuel tank. Okay, let's talk about the suitability of the bike for different riders. I get a lot of questions, people saying, would you recommend this as a first bike for an inexperienced rider? It's a difficult one. The answer is yes and no. One of the things you have to take into consideration with these bikes are they are very tall bikes, and they're heavy as well. So if you are short in stature, and especially if you're an inexperienced rider, you might find that combination a bit of a handful. Once you're on the bike and riding, then the bikes are very, very easy to ride. They corner absolutely wonderfully. They've got just enough power to put a smile on your face and to be usable for going touring and being on the big open road, and maintaining speed and having enough speed to overtake traffic, but at the same time without getting an inexperienced rider in trouble if they're a bit over enthusiastic how they pull the throttle back. So there are a lot of good points for a new rider on this bike. Again, most probably very cheap to insure. I won't go into my insurance details because it just won't be relevant to people. I'm over 50 years old and I live on a farm in the middle of nowhere, so I don't think that's going to be relevant to the majority of the people watching this channel. But I should imagine that it is very cheap to insure this bike for most people. As I said, a lot is said about the weight and the power ratio of this bike. I don't find it a problem personally. I find that the weight actually makes it feel very steady and stable on the road in all circumstances. I can't talk about off-road riding because I am the world's worst off-road rider. As soon as lockdown lifts, that is something I'm going to look into, getting some tuition for off-road riding, because I've just got no experience of it and it basically frightens me to death. The controls on the bike, everything's so easy. It's just such a basic bike. There are not a lot of electronics on this bike, so you don't have rider modes. It's got switchable ABS, you can switch the ABS off. The gearbox is really nice and easy to find gear. You won't have any problems finding neutral on this bike. You don't get any false neutrals or missed gears. So yeah, for as long as you're tall enough and strong enough to handle the bike, I think it would be a very good starter bike for a new rider. Let's talk about what the bike is good for, what type of usage this bike is good for. At the moment, you know, I just leave my panniers on and it makes it a big bike. It's a big bike to go through traffic. If I go into the city, I tend to take another bike. I won't take this one, simply because of the fact the size of the bike and with it being high up, if you're slow filtering through traffic and lane splitting, it can be a little bit of a handful. However, if you take off the panniers, then yeah, there's no problem, you can use it for that. But I would say that this bike is mainly more of a touring bike, really. That's what I use it for. I use it for Sunday rides out, and but mainly for going long distances, touring around Scotland and hopefully touring abroad soon as this pandemic eases off and we can all get back out on the roads again. I'd just like to point out as well, I am on an essential journey at the moment. I'm just going down into my local town, Kelso, to get some food supplies, so I'm well within the laws and I'm not doing anything I shouldn't be. And I hope that everybody else is also sticking to these laws. Not long to go now, and I'm sure all the lockdown restrictions are soon to be removed of this fabulous vaccine that we've got. Another thing to consider when you buy bikes, or what is the aftermarket accessory scene like? Well, for this bike I can say there are lots and lots of good accessories that you can buy for the bike. They're easily and readily available. You can buy them from AliExpress, Amazon, eBay, all the usual places. Just type in TRK accessories and you will be amazed with what you come up at and see. Just a heads up, I've got a review coming up on the channel about using AliExpress and what kind of results you can expect from AliExpress, whether it's worth taking the risk using the Chinese site. So keep your eyes open for that if you are interested. I'll be reviewing some of the things that I've bought off there, how long they take to come, quality, cost, do they fit, so on and so on. So if you're interested in something like that, please keep an eye open and consider subscribing to the channel. It doesn't cost anything, you don't get bombarded with emails. So yeah, that will be coming up to the channel. I've had lots and lots of accessories fitted to the bike. I've fitted them all myself. It's another thing, the bike is fairly easy to work on, as much as any other bike you're going to buy, modern bikes now. So yeah, accessories, not a problem, another box ticked with this bike. Okay, so the overall view I have of this bike is that it is super comfortable. You know, I can sit on this bike all day in all types of weather. Even on really blustery days like this, the bike is very stable, it doesn't get blown about. I have a pan-European, an ST1100. She's an old girl, but she's in great condition, and I love pan-Europeans. It's the first big bike I ever had, but I have to say, if I was out on this today in this wind, I would be getting blown all over the place, even though it's a big heavy bike, most probably heavier than the TRK. But I don't know what it is, the aerodynamics, it's a much more modern bike, so it's very stable in all road conditions. Like I say, you can sit on them all day and ride all day with absolutely no problems whatsoever. I have replaced the screen. I've struggled to find a screen that works for me. I've now got this screen on here, the WRS. I've recently put it on. It's the first time I've rode it with this screen on. There is a review about screens for the TRK on my channel, and I will be doing an update on this screen to let everybody know how I go on with it. But when I originally had the bike, it had the standard screen on, and it was just too short for me. I got too much wind blast from it. I know there are people out there who really like the original screen, and at the end of the day, we're all different shapes and sizes, and we all like different things from a bike. So I think with that, you don't have to take anybody's word for it. You just have to get on the bike and test ride the bike and see what you think with that. But for me personally, I think it does need a taller screen on than the standard screen, especially if you're doing a lot of motorway miles, because that's when it gets most noticeable. So all in all, just to recap now, I am really happy with this bike. I recently reviewed my wife's Honda NC750X DCT, and that is a fantastic bike. It is a brilliant all-rounder bike, but for me personally, I never really connected with that bike. I don't know why, because it is such a good bike in all departments, but that isn't a bike that when I put it on the stand and I walk away from it, I get the urge to look around and just have one more look at it and get that smile on my face, thinking, yeah, I really love that bike. And with the Benelli, I do. I really do love this bike. I love the bones of it. If I would have to say what are the things that I don't like, I can be honest, there are very few. My biggest niggle with this bike is when you put it on the centre stand, to get your foot on the centre stand, the rear passenger peg is in the way, and it makes it so difficult, and it's such a little niggle, but it really does get under my skin. Every time I put the bike on the centre stand, it does my head in. Another thing as well is putting the bike on the centre stand. As I've said, it's a very heavy bike, so that's quite difficult, and I don't enjoy putting it on the centre stand. It's more about technique than strength, as with most bikes. The other thing that I would like on this bike is a little bit more power. Yes, the bike is definitely adequately powered. You can make good headway on this bike, and it's adequately powered for riding on motorways and things. And I think if you're a new rider and you've never had big powerful bikes before, you wouldn't even miss the extra power, because you wouldn't know what you're missing. However, as I said, I've had lots of 1000cc plus motorbikes, and I do miss that low down grunt. I miss being able to sit on the motorway at motorway speeds, sort of 2,000 or 3,000 revs. On motorway speeds on this, I'm sort of around the 7,000 mark, and it red lines at 9, so it's quite a high revving engine for me, and I just wished it had that a little bit more power. But don't let that put you off. That's a personal thing for me. Like I say, I wouldn't sell the bike because of it. It's not a deal breaker. I think the bike is adequately powered for everything that I need to do on it. It's just, you know, in a perfect world we all want a perfect bike, and I would just like a little bit more power from the engine. Well, I hope this has been helpful. I'd just like to say thank you to everybody who's subscribed, and obviously thank you to everybody who's been a subscriber for a while now. Thank you for keeping the faith. Lots more coming up on the channel. If you haven't, ding the notifications bell, and you'll see the videos. I'm going to try get a video up at least once a week. So all that's left to say is thank you very much for watching. If you've liked the review, please give it a thumbs up, and everybody, please ride safe out there, keep yourself safe. Bike Ride Reviews out.